The Browns' fifth-round pick, Shedeur Sanders, suffered a strained oblique while warming up for practice Wednesday. He did not participate in joint practice sessions with the Eagles. According to Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, he's unlikely to participate in Thursday's sessions or Saturday's game against the defending champs. With that, welcome in Brian McFadden and Ryan Wilson, two of our great NFL analysts. So Shedeur Sanders missing time, guys. This is a packed quarterback room. 5 guys competing for that job. However, Dillon Gabriel and Kenny Pickett, they've also missed time, too, earlier in the preseason. How does this affect the chances of Sanders winning this quarterback competition? B-Mac, let's start with you.
It will affect his chances significantly. And here's why. He was already at the bottom of the barrel when you look at the quarterback depth chart, right? Well, Dillon Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco. But because of how well he played last week in that start against the Carolina Panthers, he was gaining momentum. Right? Everyone got an opportunity to see what he could do on a very, very big stage, and he lived up to the billing. So now getting ready for week 2, along with the joint practices against the Eagles, he had another opportunity to create more momentum for himself to move up the depth chart. And he was slated to start in front of healthy Dillon Gabriel, who is going to participate in week 2. So now hearing this injury, all of that momentum is stagnant right now. Not only is he's not participating in the game, but he's not getting these much needed reps against the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of their ones. Because when you look at the issue, most people were complaining about not getting the reps with the ones. Well, it sounded like he was going to get more reps than what he's seen so far throughout training camp this week against the Eagles in these joint practices. So this is a very, very difficult thing for him. Granted, it's out of he can't control this, right? He has nothing to do with controlling this injury, but this, it stops the momentum that he has. And also too, I don't know if you guys have ever strained your oblique muscle. It's a very, very uncomfortable injury. So today is Wednesday. They don't play until Saturday. They already stated he's not playing Saturday. So now it's about what happens in the final week of the preseason slate for Shedeur Sanders. Hopefully he can get healthy enough to participate next week to play in the final preseason game.
B-Mac, at this stage, I strain my oblique every time I get out of a chair. So, yeah, I understand what that's like. The difference is I'm not Shedeur Sanders, but you're exactly right, because this is a setback of sorts, given how well he played in that Week 1 preseason game. And the funny thing, and I'd be curious what you think about this, I was talking to our buddy Rand Carthon about this on the podcast today, and he said, look, you can get a shot for an oblique injury and go out there and suck it up and play. And part of me wonders if they're being cautious just because it's week 2 of the preseason. Part of me wonders if they're thinking, you know what, let's let Dillon have the spotlight this week and not have the shadow of Shedeur Sanders looking over his shoulder. Because there has been a push from fans, even before last week's game, to have Shedeur at least compete for the starting job with Joe Flacco. And if Dillon Gabriel goes out there and he lays an egg against the Eagles, we're going to continue to have that conversation. If he balls out like Shedeur did last week, then things become a little more equal in terms of that race. And, of course, you would imagine Dillon will get the nod as the 3rd-round pick as opposed to Shedeur as the 5th-round pick. Part of me also, just on the outside looking in, gets the sense that Kevin Stefanski wants this to be not about Shedeur and perhaps about Joe Flacco and maybe whoever's behind door number 2, not named Shedeur. So I think this is sort of putting some pumping the brakes on the Shedeur train right now, fair or not. But the sooner he gets back out there, obviously, and plays well, the more likely he is to be a real contender to see some reps sometime this year.
You know what, Ryan, to your point, I thought about the same thing. Why not take a shot? Because I tore my oblique muscle when I was playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it was towards the end of the season. And I took multiple shots in multiple games to go out and play. It was very, very uncomfortable when you talk about that needle going into that very sensitive spot where your oblique is. But it was something that was doable, and I did it. So I'm like, was that even an option? Now, granted, we don't know the severity. We hear it's a strain, but we don't know if that was an option or not. But to your point, if Shedeur played again, start in front of Dillon Gabriel and play well, now you have something to talk about in terms of how this depth chart is going to be assembled, right? So we got to see how it plays out, but clearly this is not what you want to hear if you're Shedeur Sanders. It's a part of the game, unfortunately, but not what you want to hear.
It is interesting you guys bring up the shot because obviously this is a preseason game, but for him, this could be the situation for him to be the starter come week 1, as we just discussed. So lots
or
of
move up the depth chart, be number 2, which would be a great spot to be in if you're talking about the Cleveland Browns, who might not win a lot of ball games.
Absolutely. We'll see how this thing plays out in the next week or two. Let's move on. The Micah Parsons, Jerry Jones saga rages on in Dallas. Now, the All-Pro linebacker made his trade request on August 1st, leaving the field on Wednesday. When asked for comment, he said, "My mouth is closed." Now, Jerry Jones, on the other hand, he was talking.
Now that you're headed home, do you think that talks would pick up a little bit with him?
I don't know that necessarily talks will, but we've got a game coming, and he's under contract.
Is there a deadline to know whether Micah Parsons plans to play in week 1 or not?
No, not at all. You don't have deadlines when you're playing under a contract.
What's preventing you guys from talking right now?
Again, really nothing.
So why don't you talk?
Again, nothing would be that, and we might or might not talk. And the rest of that gets in what we do every day.
Even though he is under contract, are you guys comfortable if you don't get a deal done that he'll be ready to go for Philly?
Well, again, all you got to go on are contracts. And we are negotiating for a contract. Well, when you do a contract, you would hope that after a negotiation, that's what both the team and the player look to see what our obligations are. And so I have a lot of respect for a contract.
We might or might not talk. This is very Shakespearean. B-Mac, I'll let you start here. What were your thoughts on what was said or maybe not said by all that in Jerry Jones?
This is becoming difficult to endure as an outsider. It's almost like there's a power struggle going on. Because usually most organizations, in terms of the GM or the owner, when they have questions asked of them about a really good player who's in the midst of a contract dispute, we're only going to focus and talk about the guys that are currently participating in practice. Simple as that. But we've been seeing this back and forth, mostly coming from Jerry Jones, targeting Micah Parsons. It feels like it's a power struggle. It feels like it's personal. Now, one thing that you cannot disagree with, Micah Parsons is under contract. So the obligations of that contract state that he should participate and play in games. But because of the new landscape of the NFL world, he's not participating until he gets his worth, which shouldn't be difficult to give him his worth when you look at the tape that he's put out since becoming a member of the Dallas Cowboys. So every time Jerry Jones speaks about this ordeal with Micah Parsons, he speaks as if he can care less about Micah Parsons. He speaks as if he can care less if he doesn't participate. And this does not make any sense because Micah Parsons is the best player on the Dallas Cowboys. He is the best player. He is the most valuable player. He's not the most important because that's the quarterback, but in terms of being the best and the most valuable, that's Micah Parsons. But he is the one that's kind of begging for a contract of his worth. And for me, it doesn't make any sense. I still believe they're going to get a deal done, but it feels like Jerry Jones is just tearing down this relationship just to build it back up all over again, which doesn't make any sense.
B-Mac, you fall in hook, line, and sinker for exactly what Jerry Jones wants. I think it was P.T. Barnum that once said there's no such thing as bad publicity. We're still talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and Jerry Jones looks pretty happy doing so, even if talking about things that maybe don't make sense to rational people trying to assign rational and common sense explanations for how things should play out. I think that Jerry Jones loves this. He's made it clear that he loves being the spotlight, in the middle of the media spotlight, and we're seeing this play out in real time. We saw it play out with CeeDee Lamb. We saw it play out with Dak Prescott. Twice. So I think he's just dragging his feet on this. I'm sure Micah is incredibly frustrated, and Micah should be incredibly frustrated. But I would just encourage Micah and B-Mac and Dallin and Ryan Wilson, let's take a break from Jerry Jones until he's done spinning his wheels and he ends up paying Micah Parsons $45 million a year, $4 million more a year than T.J. Watt currently makes, because that's, at the end of the day, what's going to happen, unless they're going to trade him, and I don't think that's going to be the case. So Jerry Jones is enjoying the spotlight until he has to get over to Micah, and I think that's all he's doing, and he's having a little fun doing it.
Oh, Ryan, sorry for you, sorry for all of us. You know how TV works. We'll be talking about it probably again tomorrow and the next day and the next day, but that's understandable. He's one of the best players in the game, as B-Mac pointed, as you both pointed out. All right, let's get to Buffalo. Big news.